Hello everyone and welcome to today's stream. Today we will be joined by the Audience Choice winners from the Amsterdam Lift-Off Film Festival. We've got quite a few filmmakers waiting in the wings here, so let's not keep them waiting, let's get them on board. Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Kenneth, Emma, Kevin, Bobby and Kayla, it is an absolute pleasure having you here. So I can see Kenneth in my top left-hand corner, so why don't we start with you? Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your film?
Hi, so I'm Kenneth De la Cruz, and I am director and writer for film Breathe with Kevin, and we are from Iloilo City, Philippines.
Very nice, cool. Should we jump over then to Kevin? Is there anything you would like to add there?
It's on. I can't. Well, we actually filmed Breathe at the time of the lockdown during the pandemic. Ken and I, we live about 10 minutes away from each other, and we thought that we really have to go out and be the voice and the vision of our community and share it with the rest of the world to show them what's happening here during the lockdown.
Well, I look forward to delving into your film a little bit more. Bobby, why don't you introduce yourself as well?
Hello, my name is Bobby Markov, and I am the writer, co-producer, director, editor, actor of Metamorphosis Limited. And yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. This film was made just before COVID hit Toronto.
Oh, wow.
And we were very fortunate in that sense to have the capabilities of time and resources to edit after with our team and stay inside. And yeah.
Nice. Well, we look forward to seeing that as well. And Kayla, hi, thank you for joining us.
Hi, my name's Kayla. I made You Can't See Out. I wrote, directed, produced, and edited it as
a true indie filmmaker.
Well, it was my thesis film for college, so I just graduated. So I filmed way back in fall of 2019, but I was editing all throughout COVID.
Nice. Cool. I look forward to hearing about all those roles that you took on and where you found yourself best fitted within the film. So interesting to find that out. And Emma, hi, are you okay? Can you hear everyone?
Yeah, sorry, yes, I can. Everything's fine, thanks.
Okay, cool.
Totally. So my name's Emma McCagg, and I'm the director of There's Something About John, which was filmed in New York and a little bit in Ohio. And it's a documentary feature film. And I started it, I want to say 7 years ago, but it took about 5 years to make.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a long process. I'm not a filmmaker. I wasn't a filmmaker, so it was a new project.
Amazing. Well, let's find out a little bit more about There's Something About John. So what I'll do now is I will move over and start the film. Yeah. So here we go. It has now started. So the opening shot here, we can see that you're painting, or there's painting going on the floor. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit more about the inspiration behind the story for our viewers?
Okay, so it was quite a while ago when I started, so I probably should sort of sum up my frame of mind then.
Absolutely.
Because it's a film about John, but also about myself. And where I was at was, I was painting for years. That's what I've done my whole life, basically. And I had reached a point where I really wanted to challenge myself more and maybe look at, what was I going to be doing in my life. And I was getting older, and I had always promised myself to make a film. So that promise was in my 20s. I was in my 30s, 40s, 50s. I said, this film is not happening. In the meantime, I was also, I was working alone as a painter, just working alone, and I was going to the gym alone and the YMCA, and a friend of mine kept saying, why don't you go to this class, this dance class? And I thought, well, I've had an injury and I can't dance. I can't run, I can't do anything. But eventually I went to the class, and it was John's class. It was ballet and jazz classes he taught at the Y. In the meantime, my father had passed on, and I didn't know anything about computers or applications or systems or programs or anything. And I wanted to make a book about him. So I started at the Apple store making a book in Pages, and I felt like I finally was doing something besides painting, in one way. In the meantime, so I was befriending people in the class, which was John was very, I want to say, he kind of created a family kind of immediately in the way he was as a teacher and just as a person. As he had great music, rock music when we were doing ballet, and he introduced everybody to everybody else, and there were a lot of artists and New York kind of people in Rome, and it was very dynamic. So I was befriending John, and he said, well, maybe I can help you get out of your art, and maybe we can do some videos or photographs together. So we did. And that was sort of my beginning of really opening up to another kind of art practice, right? So as I got to know John, I also felt very kind of connected to him in a way of, again, I had this injury in a car accident, and he had this injury in his past it was more emotional. But as he told me about it, I was also feeling very interested in again, with this whole part being middle age and what am I going to do in my life, what people do with what they have. And so I saw John as someone who did something with what he had, which was this injury. He took the injury and he was helping people. Basically, a lot of people in this dance class were somewhat injured or didn't think they could dance, and he made you feel like you could dance. So what people do with what they have became my kind of topic. And as he was helping me with these projects, I asked him, John, can I make a documentary on you? And he was so open. So yes. So I said, great. Well, that was good. The only thing is I didn't know how to make a film. Zero, except for this book from my father and a few photographs of John. That was it. So I don't know what I was doing, but I knew I wanted to do it. I knew that I had to do it. I knew I had to keep a promise from when I was like 20 years old that I had to make a film. And again, it wasn't a film. It wasn't a story at that point. It was just like images and color and movement that interested me about film, and not like a film buff person. So anyway, that was the beginning of the long journey of learning how to make a film. And I think that's one takeaway for filmmakers that I can give is or just to say, because people say, what was the hardest thing? The hardest thing was just learning for year after year. Every part of filmmaking. It was exhausting to always be in a learning mode. I didn't really have anything else that my paint, by the way, I'd stopped painting for a while. Now I'm back painting. I'm so happy about back painting. But I was dwindled down to just working on this film. That's what happened. So yeah, ask the question.
So I was going to say, so this is your first film, and you delved straight in with a feature-length project. Did you have?
Very good question.
Was that the idea, or did you set this up to be a short film?
No, that was not the idea at all. And what happened was another very interesting thing. Help filmmakers maybe tell this part of the story. Again, people were coming from the ballet class, and I would do things with them. And at one point, I found myself uptown with one of my new friends, and we were walking like all the way down 8th Avenue or something. And she said, "What do you do?" So I started to tell her about this film because I was beginning to take classes here and there, or whatever part of DCTV or different things. I could definitely tell people later more of the details of what kind of groups I joined, but nothing formal, but a lot of great stuff.
Nice.
Anyway, yeah. So this person. We walked all the way down like 8th Avenue, and I was talking all about John, all about the film, all about the people. And of course, she knew a lot of them because she was in the class. And by the time we got to 14th Street, I finally turned to her and said, so what do you do? And she said, I'm a filmmaker. Said, oh my gosh. Wait, you interrupted me like an hour ago. Anyway, she was wonderful in setting me up with a framework. Okay, you're going to do a film. This is what we're going to do. You're going to do a budget. You're going to do a fiscal sponsorship. You're going to do these. You're going to apply for these grants. And again, I was terrified, but she was really supportive and also wonderful at doing this because she had done a film on her father. And she, one of the things she did was said, you have to get fiscal sponsorship because it's going to cost you to make this film, and if you're going to get any money, it's going to come from. Yeah. So that was really important. I didn't even know what fiscal sponsorship was. I mean, it's ridiculous. That grid that she gave me though helped me through the whole through the whole film, because I did start to get money. I did start to apply for grants. I did start to do, I had to. And then as I got all that, I had to keep going. And believe me, I wanted to quit. So I had to do it all. And I think that's a great, if you're starting a film, it's a great thing to have someone that helps you sort of up the ante of the whole thing from the start. You know what I mean?
Also point you in the right direction as getting funding. So you mentioned there that you managed to get quite a bit of funding.
I got quite a bit of funding, much more than I ever would have thought of.
Did it cover the cost of?
By the way, I got a lot of rejection too. I want to add that I don't know how many rejections. And I applied. I got a NISCA grant. That was the biggest thing, the biggest public grant I got, which is the New York State Council for the Arts. But it's a very New York story, and it had that. And there are a lot of elements. It's about community. It's about injury, dance to helping injury. It's community spirits, downtown Manhattan. So I think there's a lot of New Yorky things in there. And certainly.
So with that being said, that this is a story that is set in New York, how are you finding the festival circuit? Are you reaching out to many international film festivals like you did with the Amsterdam Lift-Off Film Festival? Or have you found that you've had more success within New York and the festivals that take place in New York?
Well, I just started at the beginning of this year, basically. I might have applied to a few last year just to get started, but I basically started with this role, application in a big time way at the beginning of this year. And I got into the Big Apple Film Festival here in February.
Amazing.
And won Best Feature Documentary. And I felt incredibly lucky to get into this film festival and incredibly lucky to win the award. I mean, this was lucky. Then I applied, but all the other ones I applied to, by the way, because I don't want to make it sound easier. I didn't get into, I don't know if they were in New York necessarily. I applied to New York Docs. I didn't get there. But I also put it aside because I was going back to painting. My mother passed on at the beginning of the year, so I had that. Then there was this film festival. Then there was COVID, right? And then there was setting up my painting again because I wanted to also get that going while I was also going to pursue the festivals. You know what I mean? So it wasn't just festival. I just applied to a whole bunch, got that one, and then I didn't do anything all this year and got yours. Do you see what I'm saying? So now this is my second festival, and then I got one this week. It's called the New York City Television.
Very cool.
TV Television Film Festival. Yeah. And so I can do that. That's coming up. But I do think I always question that, but it's such a New York story that I don't know if, they say, find your audience. Well,
that is probably the best advice you can give anyone.
In New York City. I don't know. I mean, it's a personal film. I saw NIFA, the New York Foundation for the Arts, who was a wonderful fiscal sponsor and my great contact there, Matt Zeg. He said it's going to be a very hard film to sell because it's a personal film. It's a low production film, low to no production, and it's very hard to sell personal films because these documentary festivals like themes of different kinds of themes. There are a lot of themes here that are pertinent to the world, but not sort of political. You know what I mean?
Yeah, nice. So what's next for the film? Are you looking to distribute it, or are you happy to put it to bed after the film festival circuit?
Oh no, I would love to get distribution. Absolutely. I haven't researched exactly how that. I know there's so many different options these days. I've heard like different ways to route yourself into distribution. This television thing that's coming up might be interesting because maybe TV itself might be the way. In the educational channel, or whatever. That might be something that this fits. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
I'm not
I
quite.
was looking at the runtime of your documentary, and it's just over an hour. So with all the adverts that you have in America, it would fit perfectly into a TV film slot. Yeah. So maybe that is something that you should bring up with the festival hosts, especially when you're in communication for that festival. What is their opinion on getting this distributed onto TV channels? It's a good idea to just keep getting advice from lots of different people and to see what advice sticks and what path you want to go down. The other thing I wanted to mention was, have you all heard of a platform called Synando? Yeah, so Kayla's nodding her head. So Synando is essentially a database of all of the sale agents, distributors, producers, executives, everyone within the film industry is essentially on this database. And the best thing about it is that you can look at different companies, find out what their ethos is, what they're currently selling, what they've sold in the past, And then the most important bit is that they have at the bottom of the Synando page the direct contacts of the acquisitions or the producers or whoever is the most important within that company. And you can email them straight away. And then you're cutting out all the middlemen and you're going directly to the source. So I would highly recommend looking at that if you are looking at distribution. It's one of the ways that Lift-Off gets most of its meetings during the film markets as well. So highly recommend Synando.
Thank you.
Yes, no worries. There's a few questions come up into the chat room. And Claire's actually got a question for you. She says, are you satisfied now with your film, Emma, or do you want to continue creating more?
Well, on this film, you mean?
So do you have another film in mind? Because you said at the beginning that you had the desire.
I definitely have another film in mind. And now I know how to sort of...
Perfect.
Yeah, I do.
And have you already started that?
I'm happy to paint. It gave me a lot more confidence in my painting to do a film. I did take a painting break for about 3 years there. So it was really good for my painting. Take a break, do something else.
There's another question here from Raul who says, what about John's hometown of Medina, Ohio, in a public TV screening? So I guess he's wondering if you should reach out to distributors in his hometown to see.
Oh, I think I could definitely do that. And by the way, when they say audience, definitely there is an audience in Ohio that would be very interested in this because John was very revealing about his past. Of course, it's the Midwest of the United States, and, very interesting part of the world. And he left there. He didn't go back there, but his description. I don't know I'm probably talking to people who haven't seen the film, but his description of his childhood, I think, is very tender and very interesting. And so, yeah, I think there is a market in Ohio, and I would definitely pursue some friends of mine in Medina and the festival world there. Actually, I haven't applied to festivals there, but I'm going to start applying to festivals in Ohio.
Amazing. And then my final question would be to you, Emma, before we move on to the next film. Out of everything, you've said that you've learned so much along your journey, but what is the one piece of advice that you would give filmmakers who found themselves or find themselves in a similar position to you? What's the one piece of advice you would give them?
Wow, that's a good question. To keep doing it, I guess. Obviously, I think people say that about just keep doing it and you'll get there. I mean, that's my one piece of advice.
Just keep going, keep persevering, and it will get done.
Keep going. You can't stop. That's the problem. You have to work kind of 24/7. Sorry. That's what I'd say. I mean, you really just got to give your life. But if you give your life to it, you're going to get it done. I think that's what I think.
Absolutely.
24/7. It's a job. It's like raising a child. It's a job.
It is. So for everyone else who is here on the stream, does anyone have any questions for Emma? No, so we will move on if nobody has any questions or any thoughts you'd like to share. But I have one final question, and that is about the cinematography. Emma, what camera did you use?
Well, that's the thing. I had some people I hired, and most people were friends, or even myself. So it goes from I think it's Sony NX57, Sony NX5U. I think yeah. Nice. That was probably the main camera, but then there was other people who brought their cameras, and it really is hard in editing. That's the one thing I did love about making films, the editing part, even though it's very stationary all day, and that kind of bothered me, versus painting is very about movement. But it is a mess in editing if you have a bunch of different cameras used. So pick one and stick with it. I think it was a Sony NX5U to answer that question. Mainly
yes.
That. Yeah.
Thank you. No, it's just interesting to hear what, especially documentary filmmakers, what cameras they're using these days, because there are so many out there and so many great cameras. But it's just interesting.
Well, this is an old camera. This was an older thing. I don't think anybody would use this now. You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. And
okay, thank you.
And from one documentary to another, let's find out a little bit more about Breathe. So I'm just switching over the files here. Here we go, and it's just started. So Kevin and Kenneth, this is your film, which you shot during lockdown, from my understanding, and the at the beginning of the year. Why don't you take us back to why you wanted to shoot this documentary?
We were both bored. That wasn't much to do. We were both scared about the lockdown. We were both scared about the virus. And we thought this might be a good way, to make ourselves fight the fear by going out there. At the same time, getting ourselves involved with our community, with the communities in the city. And instead of sulking and, in our homes and staring at the walls, we might as well make ourselves useful. That's why in the film, you also see us helping, cooking food and feeding the police force, delivering PPEs to the hospital. Yeah, making ourselves really useful during the lockdown.
So can you remind our viewers where you're based? So where is this film taking place?
Can do that.
Our documentary was shot in our city, Iloilo City.
In the Philippines, correct?
Yeah, in the Philippines.
Yes, nice. So when did this take place? What month did COVID really and lockdown hit the Philippines?
Actually, the lockdown started mid-March in the Philippines, and actually it is also during the Holy Week, our Lenten season, which we celebrate here in the Philippines. So it was shot during those times when we are, as what Kevin said, we are bored in our homes and we have canceled plans and we don't know what to do. And even during the Holy Week that we are supposed to do our vacation or our tradition, so instead we shot this documentary.
Nice.
Yeah. Actually, just before the lockdown, we made a short film, and we actually got to screen it just 2 days before the lockdown. Yes. And so the adrenaline was still there, and suddenly, everything was shut down, know, and so we were kind of mulling, what are we gonna do? And so we thought, well, let's see if we can go out. And because you asked what kind of cameras we used, this time we didn't use any of those that we used to do, like a Panasonic or a Sony.
Sure.
We use our cell phones. So that people will not see us shooting, so that people will not see us filming, really, not so that it will not be obvious.
So this is entirely shot on a mobile phone, on a cell phone. That is crazy. But I did have a question about the authorities, because obviously during lockdown, you're not really supposed to be outside mixing with other people or doing all the things that you are currently showing in this documentary. Did you have to plead with the police to let you continue, or did you sneak around and get the shots that you wanted? How was that?
There's a sequence there in the film where Ken and I stopped our car because there were policemen up ahead, and so we were just like looking at the policeman, and they were looking at us, and we were anticipating, so what's gonna happen now? Are they gonna approach us? They're gonna tell us to go away? Let's see, right? But eventually, nothing happened. We just drove. We just actually drove away. Yeah.
Yeah, and we also had this opportunity to help in preparing the food for the policemen and the frontliners. So we made use of that opportunity to do additional shots and be able to roam around the city while helping our community and at the same time shooting the documentary.
Yeah, they're right. It's just a way of saying to them, don't shoo us away because we're even feeding you. We're not making you hungry.
Nice. So obviously you're taking this film now around the festival circuit. What has the reception been like so far?
It's actually been quite challenging going around the festival circuit nowadays. At the same time, the film is a little bit cultural. Well, most of it actually is cultural about our beliefs here, or the religion, the Catholic. Plus, of course, the film opens with the superstitious belief of the Filipinos. The film opens with a shot of these people going around in frantically shouting and running around because they believe that there's a witch, a flying creature, in their community. So yes, right in the middle of the pandemic, still people believe in that, right? It just shows that how strong the superstitious beliefs of the people still are. It's part of the tradition here. We got that from people, from foreigners who have colonized our country before, and pretty much up to this day, that belief and the tradition has stayed. And so yes, we got that in the film. So it's pretty much actually culture. Much as we want to share this culture out there, it hasn't gone to other festivals yet, and we hope that it will get through. But at the same time, Ken and I actually right on made another film after we finished sending these off to the Lift-Off Film Festival. We made another film. Yes, you cannot just put us both inside our homes. So we made another film, a short documentary, and that won Best Story and Second Best Documentary in another film festival.
Amazing. So you've mentioned there 3 films almost, because you mentioned you had a screening of a short film just before lockdown. Then you've made this one, and now you're looking to make another film.
Yeah.
Are they all documentaries? Is this where your niche lies?
Well, Ken and I have both made feature films, and we want to make another feature film, but it's very challenging to make a feature film right here. There are a lot of protocols that you have to observe, and it's a lot. It's easier to shot a documentary because it's just the 2 of us. You don't have to bring an entire crew to your shoot. Plus, we've discovered the power of using mobile phones. Whereas if you shoot a feature film, you bring an entire crew to, for example, a community, and what if somebody becomes positive? That's really going to be dangerous. At the same time, there's going to be a lot of risk.
Yeah, and in my case, actually, this is my first documentary. Kevin introduced me to documentary filmmaking, and it is through our film Breathe that I appreciate shooting documentary films, because it is more challenging than the feature film, since you don't have a story written already. You just have to follow the events happening around you, and I think that's quite fun, and I really enjoyed doing this documentary film.
Yeah, that's some good points you mentioned there about having structure around a short film or a feature narrative, whereas a documentary you have to be able to capture everything in the moment. And so using cell phones and using mobile phones, surely that made it a little bit easier to quickly get it out. It's already auto-focused and you can go, whereas if you have to pull out a camera, set it up, make sure all the focus is in place, sometimes you lose those golden moments.
And we also discovered that from shooting feature films to documentary, using a mobile phone actually, it makes your subject less intimidated. Because people are so used to, their selfies, it's an everyday thing nowadays. So if they see a cell phone, they're all right with that. But if they see a big camera pointed at them, sometimes they they sort of back off and, oh, wait, let me think for a while, right? That's the difference. But if it's a feature film, they're performers already. They're actors, actresses. They're they know their craft. They know their craft, so that's fine. But with documentary, your subjects actually, hardly are they also filmmakers. So yeah.
Nice. So we've talked about a lot of positives while shooting this film, but were there any major steps that you had to overcome? And if so, how did you overcome them in order to create this film?
It was a bit emotional for me and Kenneth, driving around the city, and the streets are so empty, where you see people going around, you see a lot of cars, but suddenly it was just like the 2 of us. That's why eventually the title of the film was Breathe, not only because of the mask, but the streets are empty, and yet ironically you cannot breathe. You feel so suffocated, Yeah. It's that whole idea. There's so much space, and yet it was so difficult to breathe, because at the same time there's the fear, the fear of the unknown. Like, you don't know what's right there in the corner or something like that, right? So yeah.
Sure, everyone can
Yeah.
resonate with that statement at this moment in time. You just feel so trapped. And I can see everyone else nodding their heads as well. But it's a good analogy to use for this film.
And there's also a scene in the documentary where we went to the hospital to deliver the PPE equipment, and during that time, the fear for the COVID is much greater. So, like we really don't know what will happen to us that time. It's just that I don't know what entered into our mind that we decided to do it and see what happens and see what's inside the hospital, what's in the hospital. Yeah, I think that's one of the challenging part of the documentary.
It was like right at the time we were in the middle of the shoot already. You've got your adrenaline going. It's been several days shooting, and we thought, oh yeah, so I mean, like, let's do this. Let's go to the hospital. Let's deliver this to the hospital. And the hospital was the COVID center here in the city, And the idea actually was exciting. Now, when we were about to leave our place to go to the hospital, we thought, all right, this is really going to happen, right? And then just when we were nearing the hospital, we could feel our hearts thumping already. Wait, this is real. This is way too real. I mean, like, are we really gonna do this? I mean, are we gonna go inside the hospital? But we did it. And well, I think, truth to be told, by the time we finished shooting the documentary, right when you get to the end of the film, because that's really when we finished shooting the documentary as well, when we remove our masks. I mean, like, we felt normal again. We felt a certain sense of normalcy again, and we felt better. I think the film was also our journey in a way of fighting the fear of the COVID, and that's what we want to share with the rest of the people and the rest of the world too.
Amazing. What a story to tell, and how fantastic that you've managed to capture it in this way. So then, before we move on to the next film, you mentioned that you've got another documentary that you're working on. Is that correct? Can you share any of that with us?
We've been shooting this documentary. Actually, it's about medical students helping students in far-flung areas so that they can be able to perform first aid, so they don't have to go to the hospitals if they can just do this on their own. At least it's a way to help as well the frontliners, and not to give additional problems to the frontliners who are busy attending to people who have more emergency matters to attend to in the hospitals.
Wonderful. Sounds like you're finding yourself a little niche there in the documentary world as well.
For a while, yeah. But we're looking forward to shooting a feature after this. But for a while, I mean, like, for now, I mean, as artists, we strongly believe, Kenneth and I, we strongly believe as artists, as a filmmakers, you have to be the voice, and you have to be, you have to be the vision of your community as well. So you really have to go out there. You really have to go out there and do what you can do for now, yeah, and not stop.
Wonderful. Well, again, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you. So next we are moving on to Kayla, You Can't See Out. So just switching those films over now. There we go. So that should be starting any second now. Here it starts. So Kayla, take us back. What was the inspiration behind this? And please tell us a little bit more about yourself as a filmmaker.
So this film was my thesis film for my final year at college.
What college did you go to?
I went to Massachusetts College of Art and Design in Boston.
Very cool.
So the idea came from the house. It's actually my aunt and uncle's house. So I went there one day with a few of my friends, one of them being the guy who ended up playing Benji.
Nice.
He said it was like a perfect horror movie house because it was like too perfect, and there was like a lot of windows. It's built into a side of like a mountain, so it's like very picturesque. So I decided I like the idea of somewhere very nice and something very bad happening there. I don't know why. So that's kind of where the idea came from. I had a few different scripts shopped around, but this was the one that I felt like I could make at the time. So yeah. So that's where it came from.
I mean, we just saw a shot of the house and we can see it again now. It is beautiful, and your auntie's very lucky to have this house.
Yeah, they built it.
So that's amazing. This is one of the things that we always say to our filmmakers, especially with emerging filmmakers: use what you have in front of you. And the fact that you had this, great. Great.
Yeah. It helped a lot with like the cost. Like I didn't have to worry about location at all. I was like, okay. That's another great thing about horror movies is they tend to be in one location. That's why they're a much lower budget. But yeah, as you can like see in the shots, I was really focused on like kind of taking the camera and stepping it back, looking through windows and doors and stuff. So it felt like they were being watched.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Nice. So this was your thesis project, and how did you do?
Yeah.
How did you do with your graduation project?
Good. It doesn't get graded, so
Oh, it doesn't? Oh, okay.
No, I just passed. I graduated.
Woo.
But yeah, the film, I've always imagined it as like a feature. So that's why I felt like I took the script and I had a lot written. I had a lot of different scenes written, like some of them around like the fireplace. And I kind of like condensed it and saw what I could use to make it a short. And then like write what makes sense and what could work in 20 minutes. And that's kind of like what you see now. Yeah.
That's interesting. So do you have a feature film script written?
The like outline is totally written out. So
Okay.
yeah, to spoil the ending of my film, because I don't know who's seen it, but there's like a twist that the one girl had died in a car accident. Well, that all of them had died in the car accident except the one girl. In this scene, she's in the red sweatshirt. So that like explains the mysterious, like how they all die. They just kind of like disappear. It's not like your traditional home invasion slasher. It has a lot of like thriller elements to it, very like suspenseful.
Nice.
I don't know if I've achieved this, but like the idea behind it was like if like Hitchcock made one of those like 90s teen slasher films, like what would like the feel of like a thriller and focusing on like the suspense and not like gore and having this like bad guy in a mask. What would that look like with the same setup as like teenagers in a house, which I don't know why, but I feel very drawn to that. I think it
has a much stronger like effect on you mentally and afterwards as well. It stays with you for a lot longer than seeing someone in a mask or with lots of blood and gores. Like this could happen to anyone, and if that stays with you, it's like that. For me, you've ticked the horror box. But obviously others prefer the blood and everything else. But that's why I Lift-Off love this film.
Yeah, I think the people like slashers because they're a bit of fun. But I love a more of a suspense, atmospheric. One of my favorite things about the film is we shot at 2 different weekends, one in September and then one in November. And it ended up being a very, very, very cold weekend in November. The one shot you'll see later when the one character wakes up covered in blood on the ground. It was so cold. I felt so bad for her.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. But one of the blessings was there's a strong cricket sound, like as the atmosphere at the beginning of the film. And then we shot the second half of the film after what I've started calling like the figure shows up the second weekend, and there's no crickets. So it just like drops out and then it's just silent. So I really liked that happy accident. I think that really added to the horror in the second half of the film.
Nice. So how many people were in the crew? So I take it you had a lighting and camera department helping you out?
Yeah, we had a good crew. It was my fellow students at my school, all of like my friends. There was about 20 of us, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, between 20 and 25 the first weekend, and we had a much smaller crew, about 10 to 15 the second weekend. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Which did you prefer? Did you prefer having a smaller crew or the larger crew?
I preferred, well, with the smaller crew, I remember saying the second weekend, if we had just had like one or two more people as like runners or like PAs, because I felt like there was a few, like my AD and stuff was doing a few side things that he didn't need to be doing if we had like another PA. But I think the smaller crew in this instance worked a little bit better because there was, it was easier to just like have one or two people on lights and be able to be like, okay, move this, do this and that.
Sure.
I'm a very like hands-on filmmaker. I wasn't the DP, but I was the one that made the shot list. So I did all the shots and stuff, and then I gave it to my DP, and then we like worked that out. So I like to have like my hands in each part of the process. So it's really helpful when there's like less people around, I guess.
Sure. Did you say that you edited this as well?
Yeah, I did so I edited it. I did all the sound design and everything like that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I know quite a few editors who insist on going to the set to watch what's happening and to see what shots they're using, and in a way overseeing, as you just mentioned there, the shot list, getting an idea of what is it they're trying to achieve, so that when they get into the editing room, it's like a lot more flowy and to the director's liking and for their understanding as well. Did you find that helped? Obviously, if you had the shot list and direction and then editing, or did the story change quite drastically during the edit?
I think the story changed quite drastically because, like I said, in my mind, the whole plot is a feature. So the script was closer to 30 pages. You see the end of this ended up being about 20 minutes. So we were kind of crammed a lot for time. And this long shot around the table that you're watching right now ended up being 21 takes and took 6 minutes because it's like a 2-minute long one shot take.
Yeah.
So things like that really set us back. So it ended up kind of changing with how we shot it. It wasn't exactly, I love how it came out, but it wasn't the film I saw when I was writing it, which I think happens a lot of the time.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
A long-winded way to answer your question about editing. If I was just an editor, I don't think I would want to be on set, because I think we create an idea of what we want it to be. We have like our expectations, and then it's kind of hard to look past how we saw the film when all we have is the footage that we shot. So if I wasn't the writer and director, I feel like editing would have been easier because I wouldn't have had like the expectation or thought of it as something else before I started editing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And another point, which isn't the case for your film, but a lot of the time when a filmmaker is the director and the editor, it's a lot harder to discard some of the story that doesn't necessarily help the storyline, but it took so long to get the shot and so much effort went into it that they put it in regardless because they feel like they have to. And yeah, if you can step away from that, the film often becomes a lot stronger. And I feel like you've done very well in removing yourself from that, from just listening to what you've said there. So then going back to the fact that you want to make this into a feature film, and obviously a feature you would love to get distributed. Have you heard of a company called Shudder?
Yeah, I know Shudder.
Yeah, so they only take
Yeah.
on feature films, but what might be worth doing is emailing them, finding out what it is exactly they're currently looking for. Use this as your proof of your short proof of concept and being like, I want to involve this. I don't know, do they get involved in productions as well, or do they only take on projects that are completed?
I don't know. They might just be distribution, but I'm not sure.
If
I don't
they
know.
are
I'll
just
look into it.
distribution at this moment in time, I'm pretty sure that they'll want to move into their production side as well.
Mm-hmm.
But there is another company called Alta, which is on YouTube.
Okay.
Definitely check them out. Some of their short films
I will.
that are horror, they only deal in the horror sector, get between 2 and 3 million views.
Wow.
So if there's a way that you can get in contact with them and get your short film on there, that is massive proof that there is an audience behind your film. So then when you are reaching out to different sale agents, to funding and to executive producers or whoever it is to get them on board for your film, having that many views or having that much content to show them will really work in your favor.
That is a really good idea. I'll check that out. Thank you.
No worries.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just to say, like, the lighting and the cinematography is fantastic as well.
Yeah, I couldn't have been happier with the lighting. I wanted to use a lot of practicals, and then so like a lot of lamps in the shot and things like that to light everything up. Like the scene now that she's calling 911 when we kill all the lights, and then for the rest of the film they're just using flashlights and stuff like that. I think that kind of like adds to the atmosphere of it. It makes it feel real of like that we're actually in a normal house. And then we used some really nice lights for the windows. For all the kitchen scenes, like we had a skylight, so we had a light going through that. So we had like a good, I really liked the lighting. It's great.
Nice. So then apart from developing this into a feature, what else are you currently working on?
Since this film, I've shot 2 little shorts, more for just fun. Like Kevin and Kenneth said, I can't be like restless right now. And so I'm editing those. I'm writing another feature about the New Jersey Pine Barrens, if anyone knows what that is.
No, I don't.
It's a pretty local thing. I don't know if you've ever heard of like the Jersey Devil, but it's again another like horror thriller. That's really what I like stick to. I like directing, and I like directing what I write. So that's kind of what I've been doing, talking to like a few producers who might be interested in stuff and trying to get this into as many festivals as I can.
Amazing. And
Huge.
going back to that idea of Alta or Shudder, if there's content on there that you really, really resonate with and you feel like your project aligns, who produced it? Who worked in the different departments? Stalk them and invite them out for a coffee, invite them out for a drink, introduce them to the projects that you've just shared with us and say, is there any chance you'd like to get involved? Or if not, like, what advice could you give me to get to that next level? You'll be surprised at how much people want to help. It's just you've got to ask. And I feel like you're in the perfect position to start reaching out into those other areas, especially with films that are doing really well. You're like at that right stage to be like, help me, or like get involved with their projects. So it's exciting times for you.
Yeah, I'm lucky that I feel drawn to like horror thrillers because I feel like there's always an audience for it. There is like a bit of a stigma with like it being, you know, an art film or something to a caliber of winning awards and stuff, but I always feel like there's a good audience for it. So
yeah, absolutely. And if you can make your career within that niche, within that genre, you're only going to climb a lot faster than spreading out and trying to do everything. No offense to everyone else who is dabbling in different areas, but if you have that direct line, you're going to climb faster. So it's great that you have that passion.
I heard that a couple years ago as advice, like really find something that you're good at and excel at it, and then people start to like notice you for that. this wasn't a question. But that would, if I was giving advice to someone who just started out, that's probably something I would say. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing your story and your journey so far. Let's move over to Metamorphosis Limited with Bobby. So I'm just going to get your film now. And there we go. So that's going to start playing any moment now. So yes, like with everyone else, why don't you take us back and reintroduce yourself, your role within this film, and the story behind it? What inspired the story?
So my role was multiple, as I reiterated at the beginning. But just like Kayla, this was a fourth-year thesis project as well for me. And I come from a theater background, so my program is performance acting. And in our fourth year, we have a project where we would write our own play, and you can direct it if you want, or help direct somebody else's. But each person in the class, they would have the option of writing their own piece and then presenting it in a festival called New Voices.
Nice.
So for me, since high school, coming from a visual arts background, dabbling in photography, I had this moment where it clicked for me. I just wanted to make films, and that was it. No other motive but that. And when I had that opportunity to make a script in fourth year, I just had to make it a movie instead of a theater show. And it's pretty rare in our program that would happen, but I was really lucky to have done that this year because of COVID. So all the other people in my class that did do a play, unfortunately, they weren't able to put it on, on stage. Exactly, yeah. So we were really fortunate. Being a film, we were still able to present it, in its full capacity.
Did you have a screening for it, or was it an online screening?
We screened part of it. So the main reason for that was just because we were still in the post-production process. We weren't completely finished. And also the second reason, the bigger reason, was because of all the other film festivals we applied for. The regulations say that you can't present it publicly before applying to those festivals, and then after the festivals are over, you can present it to the world for free publicly, which is what we plan to do next after receiving answers from all the other applications that all the other film festival applications that we've gone through.
And regards to submitting to film festivals, it's such a tricky thing, really, in the sense that there are so many film festivals out there. Where does my project best sit? They all cost a lot to submit to, so it's creating that strategy. How have you found it so far? Have you had lots of festival acceptance, or has it been a bit of a daunting process?
The way we approached it was, after the film was made, we made an Indiegogo campaign to raise funds to be able to apply for as many festivals as we would as possible, right? And we have, I think, between 18 and 12 that we've applied to. We raised about $600 in like a week, which was crazy. And I think the reason that got fast-tracked in that such a short period of time was because we already had so much material to present for people, because the film was finished. Obviously, we couldn't screen the full thing on Indiegogo, but yeah, we had like a lot of content and the trailer and everything like that. And the trailer that you see actually was all done by myself in terms of the shooting, the editing, and the coordination, all of that. And then that, fast tracked to like the actual shooting of the full film, which was with a whole bigger team, obviously, and stuff like that. Yeah.
I'm so glad that you mentioned about your GoFundMe campaign or Indiegogo, Kickstarter, whatever the Kickstarter is. But so many filmmakers forget about the marketing and the festival submitting side, that they use up all their budget making the film. We always advise filmmakers to try and save at least a third of their budget to submit to film festivals, all the marketing that goes alongside your film as well. So it's good that you managed to figure that out by opening it up to people and going down that crowdfunding way of getting your film seen, which is cool. And if you do that as well, you're just going to get more eyes on your project, and they'll want to see where it goes, and maybe they'll attend the festivals as well. So it's really cool that you went down that route.
Yeah, for sure. Because I, as a theater person or being in a theater program, I was very lucky to have worked with people in my university's film program, and they knew that process. They were the ones that opened my eyes to the fact that, you do have to invest in, putting it out there for film festivals. And you can't forget that, because, prior to making this film, before theater school in high school, I would always make movies that I would consider a guerrilla style of filmmaking, without a script. You make it on the fly in a way, and I really, really like that. But I realized that if you wanted to take it a step further, and get noticed more, and be considered more of a serious director, you have to, develop a script and you can't do it guerrilla,
Well,
Yeah.
if you do go guerrilla, just make sure everyone else on the team is happy to go guerrilla, and
Yeah.
you get caught. But
Yeah, 100%.
For sure.
so all of these sets that we can see here, where were these locations? Were they the university, someone's student home? At the moment, where which looks like at the doctor's or the dentist, but it's not. You can explain this better.
Yeah, so a lot of these, and sorry I didn't mention this earlier, were part of Ryerson University in Toronto. So a lot of the locations that you see are either on campus. For instance, the lab scene is on campus in the basement of a building, and then a lot of the other montage sequences of Adam walking down the street, those are downtown Toronto. And those posed a lot of challenges, actually, because of the weather and not having ever done something of this scale. Like I said, doing it guerrilla usually. So doing it this scale outside with a lot of crew members was different for me. But
The other one.
I was surprised that it worked out really well, and we got as much footage as needed to make it happen. And then the apartment scenes that you see in here are a good friend of mine, Stephen Howe, and he plays Jamie too. So the real Jamie of that character, the real
Nice.
body of that character. Yeah.
Very nice. That's cool. And again, it's great to use locations that you have. Did you have to add anything to the budget, or was this funded by the university?
So we were lucky to have full funding from the university, which was, such a joy.
Won't happen
Because-
again, I'm afraid.
That's the thing, right? But I think it's safe to say for all projects, funding is one of the biggest challenges, and when you do get it, it's just such a relief to know that you can make this a reality. You're not waiting on the money.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just looking at all of the special effects you've got in here as well. It's very, very cool. And the cinematography, the lighting, and the color palette as well. It's cool. Was there a lot of thought into the color palette, or did that come after?
We did think about color beforehand, in regards to like the set and costumes as well, and how that would relate to the color correction. And yeah, we wanted to work with a lot of like blue colors, just because of the technological environment that we wanted to surround this company for, you know what I mean? And also the aspect that this company is like medical in a way, you know, it's dealing with bodies, right? So there's that aspect as well. It's not just this like corporate company, but it also, it deals in this like very, I don't know how to describe it, but like, medical is the best word I can describe it. Yeah, it deals with that a lot.
So this obviously had themes of sci-fi. Is that now the genre that you like to delve into, or are you open to other areas as well?
I am currently working on another project, which will be a thriller.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, drama / thriller. So for me, it's whatever story or more so, what is it that I'm trying to say? What is the statement or message I'm trying to make with the certain film? And for this case, sci-fi was the best fit for this story and what this story was trying to say in regards to identity and all of that. So the next project, thriller, is the best fit for that. And
cool.
Yeah.
So another thing that we say here is that all short films are like business cards. This is what I can do. This is what I've done in the past. Hire me on these bases. So if you can build up a collection of different areas, and if the key thing that pieces them all together is whatever genre resonates best with the story, how am I best going to tell my narrative? And that is the kind of the umbrella underneath all these films that you're creating. That's very, very cool as well. So there's two different things to look at there, either picking one genre and going for it, or using your short films as your business cards to then launch your career in the feature film world.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think also when people see me as a director and see that my first ever short film of this length was a sci-fi, that they would be able to glean that, you know, I can take a story and do a lot with it, you know, as long as there's funding, like, because making a sci-fi has so many challenges that you don't face with a drama, you know what I mean? And especially with the aspects of such a fantastical world, taking such a fantastical world and then having to ground it in realism in a way, unless that's not what you want and you want it to purposely be like very fantastical. But what we wanted was to ground it in, you know, modern day atmospheres. So that was tricky. And making it realistic, making a sci-fi realistic it takes a lot of money, you know, to be able to have the art and the set and the costumes reflect that realism.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, again, 4 wonderful projects here and so very different. And I look forward to seeing what everyone gets up to and their next films, and stay in touch. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask myself? I love how many questions we have for each other. It's great. No, good luck with everything. And I'm just check the chat room. No, it's all good. People just saying that they've enjoyed the stream so far. Yes.
Actually, I have one question.
Sure.
Can you hear me? I'm just wondering. So it's Amsterdam Lift-Off that I was in anyway, but you're in London, and it's all one connecting?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Lift-Off's headquarters are here at Pinewood Studios in London, and we have the 11 city-based festivals to our network. What usually happens is that the team would fly to Amsterdam or fly to Paris, fly to Sydney, fly to LA or New York and all the other cities and host the events. What makes it that city's festival is that we do a heavy focus on local filmmakers and networking in the cities. But because of COVID, we have had to move all of this to an online platform, and we were like, how can we connect the filmmakers taking part with the other filmmakers? And this was our solution.
Wow, great job. Yeah.
Thank you.
I also have a question. Do you see this festival being in person next year? I mean, I know we're all hoping for that. I am certainly hoping that if I get in one day, I'll be able to visit Amsterdam for real, you know?
I know Amsterdam is such a great city as well. Here in the UK, we've distributed the vaccine. The COVID vaccine has started to be distributed yesterday, which is great. And they expect everyone in the UK to be vaccinated by March, April time, which means that we're ready to travel, but it depends on the rest of the world and when they get vaccinated. Amsterdam takes place in October, generally. So, yes, we are hoping to go back to live screenings next year. So if that does happen, and you happen to be in Amsterdam, come along and meet us. Absolutely.
Would love to.
We can't put an exact date on when we're going to launch the live festivals again, or hold the live festival screenings. But we're hoping as soon as possible we can get back into cinemas, support the cinema venues as well, because they've been hit so hard by this. So we need to save cinema, and that's actually a good point. How are your feelings towards films that would generally get a cinema release now going straight to VOD?
What do you mean by VOD exactly? Sorry.
So VOD, so it will go straight to Netflix instead of having a cinema release.
Oh.
I think it's a shame.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think it's so sad. I love theaters. I love the experience of a theater. I don't know, like, I think it reaches a lot of people when it goes straight to VOD, but I think it's sad that it's COVID, so they can't do it, but
it's like this year's okay, but support the cinemas as soon as we can is my kind of view on it.
Yeah. I'm sad that after this, I'm worried, like, if there is even going to be a time when it's just in theaters. Like, I wonder, because I feel like theaters were being hit so much before, like, that I'm sad.
I don't know.
I'm feeling optimistic about all this. I mean, like, eventually we're all going to go back to the cinemas. I mean, like, I'm feeling good about 2021. Hopefully towards the end of 2021, then everything's going to go back to normal, and we're all going to go to the cinemas. Like me and Ken, we have some film projects, and we're holding them off because we feel that these films should really be seen in the cinemas and not on VOD. So we're just going to wait for a while. But as we said, I mean, we cannot stop as filmmakers. So let's just keep on going. I mean, like, and documentaries for now would be the best films probably to make. Yes, for us at least.
Coming from theater, I completely know how valuable, recognize how valuable it is, this like communal viewing of, you know, artwork.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as an artist, I feel like if I were to put something out there and it were to reach as many people as possible, which is possible with streaming, I would prefer that in a way, because I'm making something to show to people. You know, I'm creating a message for people to understand or think about. So as many people as possible to be able to get that message across is I think is valuable. in a way,
Yeah.
whether it's in cinema or it's
I agree.
in like a streaming platform, whatever it is, as long as it's being seen.
Yes.
It's kind of like a
Agree.
double-edged sword, because you're exactly
Yeah.
right. You want your content to be seen by as many people as possible, but you want the cinemas to survive and have as much thriving and atmosphere and those memories that you had growing up by going to the cinema. That next generation is going to miss out on that if they fall to the wayside and everyone just goes, we can just put it on in the living room or in the lounge or whatever.
It's definitely a nostalgic thing, I think, for a lot of people. A big part of it, I feel like, is nostalgia, because that's what we knew, you know. And the future is, with this digital world, you know, it's just like so unknown what it'll be like from what we were used to.
With this whole new digital world and the high demand for content, this just gives way more opportunities to filmmakers than ever before, and content creators. So again, we're back at that but in my opinion, if we can make cinema special, cinema needs to evolve with the times as well. So we will see. We will see what the outcome is. But fingers crossed to going back to live screenings as soon as possible is the answer to your question. We massively spiraled out. But yeah, cool. Well, thank you all so much for joining.
Thank you.
And Claire says, what a great stream.
Thank
Thank you for joining us as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do stay in touch, and if you're happy for me to, I would be more than delighted to share with you your email addresses so you can continue talking and connecting if you wish.
Yes.
Okay. Great,
Yes,
please do.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Natalie. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.